I can taste your words. I can taste your words.
Welcome to the Easy Answer Podcast. I'm Brandy, plant-based chef.
And I'm Vonanise, plant-based adjacent.
On this podcast, we explore thought-provoking conversations around food
and simple ways to stay healthy in this crazy world.
Hey, Vaughn.
Hey, Brandy, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How's your week been?
Everything's really great. I love this weather in New York City. It is happy time, but we won't call it Indian summer because we know how your mother feels about that.
Yes, well, not until it's officially Indian summer. She's totally fine as long as you use the word properly, okay? Yeah. It's definitely the best. I think one of the best seasons in New York. Like, it's like after we had the nasty humid summer and then we get that nice fall kind of end of summer, fall air. You can run, breathe easily. It's really exciting.
Definitely. And it's apple picking time. We're all about that apple life.
Apples. I love it. And what's funny is that I always pick apples like super late in the season because I'm always like super busy and then I'm like, oh my God, yeah, I want to go pick apples. But it is officially apple picking season. So I'm excited.
Like last year when we did that event around Brandy's birthday, which is late in October.
Yeah.
The Libra planner right there. And it was so much fun.
It was. We'll have to share some pictures on our social media when we promote this episode, because we did some fun shots during our trip. We had the most amazing food. Like, they had these little food trucks at this apple orchard. I guess that's what you call it, right? Like the apple farm, maybe. And they had these food trucks, and they used the apples to make different ciders. They also had like these apple pizzas. It was just the most. Yeah, it was
like apple cider, like hard apple cider, but of course we like drove there. And if like upstate New York is like, it's kind of far. So you can't really get too buzzed, So
gotta make it back in one piece, right? But it was beautiful. It was such a pretty day because it was kind of it was a nice fall day because my birthday's at the end of October, but it happened to be a beautiful day. Like, the sun was shining. You had
to go in the back of the orchard to get the apples.
And the only thing I left was not Red Delicious, Golden Delicious. Those were
they were so good. Like, didn't you feel like they were so good?
I really do. I really do. So yeah, that was fun. We got to go back there. That place rocked.
But I also realized that apples taste different when they're in season.
Yeah, that's a good point. And like, honestly, growing up, I didn't even realize that there were more than 3 types of apple. So as a kid, I remember the Red Delicious apple, which, funny enough, is still the most popular apple. Like, when they do like surveys and ask people like, what's their favorite apple? It's Red Delicious, which is crazy. But my theory is that that's because they haven't tasted anything else. So they think like
Red Delicious is not even good.
Not even that great, right?
You got a pink lady and a gala that just like throws that out.
But that gala apples are the second. So like, gala apples are coming for Red Delicious. So Red Delicious is one followed by
only Brandy does apple research. The computer.
Yeah, and then the good old Granny Smith, which was one of my favorite. Like, I didn't like Red Delicious; they just didn't do it for me. So then Granny Smith, even though they were supposed to be the cooking apple, like my grandma's like, "Oh, you make fried apples with these." So I didn't realize that you could actually eat them. I was like, I thought you had to cook with them, but then when I realized that you could eat them too, I was like, "Oh, this is my favorite apple." And then there was that yellow apple, which I guess is called the Golden Delicious, right?
That's Golden Delicious, right? No, but I think they had another one. They had like a ginger one when we were there. They called it ginger something. You don't remember that?
They had a ginger? I don't remember this ginger apple.
They were calling it ginger something. Like, I don't really remember the name, like the official name of it, but I remember that there was another one we were there that they had. And I was like, Jesus, so many different types of apples. You were just like, and the benefits of apples. And I mean, I thought that I would like run out of, I was like, I'm going to get tired of these. They're going to go bad. No, I ate all those apples. They were gone in like 4 days.
It's something about grabbing your food from a tree, like from the original source, that it's just so much better. And yeah, I mean, what's crazy is that they're literally 7,500 different types of apples?
Well, so in college, I worked at Safeway grocery store. Okay.
Mhm.
And I remember, and that's why I'm never like mean to cashiers when they can't remember stuff, because you have to remember the different kinds of apples.
Yeah.
And I was not even aware, just like you, that there were that many different types of apples. And there was like a code for each one. And I was like, are you kidding me? It's 10 different. At the time, it was 10 that I had to. I was like, I cannot process this apple situation, you know?
Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. I mean, but like you said, like Pink Lady, that's probably one of my favorite apples. Right?
Yes.
The
Yes.
Pink Lady.
It's expensive though.
It is kind of expensive. But you know why? It's because it comes from Australia.
What?
Everything that comes from Australia. I mean, just the flight, at least to the East Coast, is 24. It's a whole day. Apples hope they have a cost attached to them, and I guess they end up giving it to us. Even though what's that called has bags. Trader Joe's tends to have bags of Pink Lady apples for a good price.
Really?
I will say, like, yeah. I don't know if they're always there, but there is a season where like there's Pink Lady apples at Trader Joe's that are probably like $2.99 and $3.99 a bag.
Do you remember when Dr. Oz had that story that there was like arsenic in apples?
Applesauce. Not applesauce, apple juice.
And apple juice, but wasn't it like in the seeds or something?
Yeah, people were saying that's where it came from. Like in the factories where apple juice is processed, like the seeds sometimes come into the machine and release some type of arsenic. But I think it was one of those sensationalized stories where it's probably such a small amount of arsenic that it didn't like have that much of a effect. Because people were drinking apple juice and not falling out all over the world. You understand?
Are you sure though?
I don't remember people just dying from drinking apple juice because of arsenic.
But what if like you have like small amounts of it and you're dying slowly and you don't realize it?
Then I guess if you ate some food that would like flush it out of your system, it would probably counterbalance it out.
You know, people don't drink enough water. I mean, this is America.
Listen, all I'm saying is that, I mean, yeah, I don't know the whole thing, but I want to talk a little bit about the good old saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away, right? So that's something that we think about. Like, why? What is
give us your knowledge
about the apple that is so like nutrient dense, so beneficial? Like, you know, it's such a quote unquote humble food, as they always say, very simple. It's been around for 9 million years. Like the apple, there's evidence of apples being on this planet for over 9 million years, which is kind of interesting.
Is that longer than humans?
It is longer than humans. They back from what is it? Paleolithic, isn't that the time with like dinosaurs and stuff? Paleolithic.
Wow, so dinosaurs used to eat apples.
We can assume that that's probably was part of their diet. Yeah.
Wow.
Which is really.
So why does an apple a day keep the doctor away? Good old Dr. Brandy.
So apples have a particular fiber in it called pectin. Pectin, I believe is how you pronounce it. And that fiber is really good at helping us to keep our digestive tract healthy. You know how keeping our gut health important and making sure that we can flush crap out of our body is super important. So that's one thing. So the fiber in the apple. In addition,
talk.
Listen, we have to be regular. We have to be comfortable talking about the importance of regular. Yes, you know it. And if you don't know, we've had a whole episode about. It's one of Vaughn's most challenging ones, but an episode around making sure that you keep your poop in good standing. So check out our channel for if you want to dig a little bit in with that. We have a doctor who gave us some good tips on that one. In addition to the fiber in the skin, there's a flavonoid called quercetin. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's like that QUERTE. That, right? And that has that flavonoid boosts your immunity, and it also helps with inflammation. So we're talking about if we have an apple every day, it helps to keep us regular. It helps to keep us healthy from an immunity standpoint, and it helps us to lower our inflammation. So like that alone is that triad, I guess, of benefits is kind of how the apple got its claim to be a really useful tool in staying healthy.
So I can't have apple juice. Why not, Dr. Brandy?
I'm not an official doctor, so I just want to make that disclaimer.
Foodologist people, like this girl's always dropping knowledge about fruits and vegetables because that's how much she loves them. So let's just coin her Dr. Brandy. Go ahead.
Fiber. So the thing about juice, when we juice, like yes, we get this intense amount of nutrients, concentrated nutrients, but it's void of fiber. So that's why if we can, as much as possible, have the whole version of the food, it is ideal. So that's why it's recommended that you eat the apple and not just drink the juice. When you drink the juice, you don't get the skin and you don't get the fiber. And those are the two things that make the apple magical.
That's a really good idea because a friend of mine, her daughter, when she was younger, I want to say she got about 8 or 10, and the doctor said she was gaining weight and that she was like getting a little bit, like over the scale, going into overweight. And she said, so the doctor gave her tips and said, when she's hungry and if she asks for seconds, tell her to eat an apple instead of giving her seconds. He said, give her the portion and he showed her the portion to give all the kids. And then she said, instead of seconds, she eats an apple.
Oh,
and the little girl never gains a whole bunch of weight,
That's
now she's a healthy girl. She's a vegan too. Now the girl's vegan, graduated from college, and she's very much into her diet, So it's funny that you say that.
That's cool. So guys, we as always at the Easy Ends podcast, we always bring somebody in to join the conversation. And today we are going to be chatting with Vera. We're going to welcome her into the Easy Ends podcast. Hey Vera, how are you?
Hi ladies.
Welcome to the Easy Ends podcast.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So Vera, tell us about yourself.
Well, my name is Vera Mackey, and my company is Vera's. You can find me on Instagram at Vera's Good. It's VRAYZ GOOD. So I host my own events. One of my events coming up is a taco night on October 15th, which will be at the Andrew Freeman home in the Bronx, which is awesome. Tickets are on sale on Eventbrite. So that's where you can find me. I also cater. I do cakes, specialty cakes. I don't just do regular cakes because regular cakes anybody can do, layer cakes, and I don't decorate.
Yeah,
so,
you're special, so you do specialty cakes. Got
it. I also do homemade drinks like coquito. I have a punch that we call Some Punch. I do white sangria. And so for the holidays, I do a little bit of everything, and my cuisine is mom-made food. I have mom-made cuisine.
So do you have an apple pie or an apple cake that you make?
Well, you know what I do with apples? Mostly. I do a lot with apples. But my favorite thing with apples is I just cut them up and put lemon juice on them. One, it helps to preserve the apple because after you cut it, when the air hits it, the chemical reaction between the oxygen and the natural juices in the air is what causes the apples to go brown. Not bad. People think that when they turn brown that they're bad. They're not. Mm-hmm. What you do is that you put a little bit of acid on them, which could be vinegar, which is I wouldn't do vinegar. But if you do like lemon juice, a little bit of lemon juice, besides the fact that the sweetness, it gives it like this kind of like a sauce, you would say. Mm-hmm. It is so good. And you can leave them in your refrigerator for days and they won't turn.
Oh, so you're saying that's what McDonald's doing to their apples?
No, they're putting some kind of citric. It's probably like a powder or a chemical, but you could do it a more natural way using just straight lemon juice or even lime juice if you prefer limes. And you just squeeze it, or you even out the bottle, concentrated is fine too. You put it on the apples, you shake them up. I put them in a jar, I shake them up. They don't last long because my youngest 2 kids love it. They will kill. I can count up like 10 apples and I can guarantee it'll be gone within 2 days.
Oh, that sounds good. So you are an apple person.
Yes, we do love apples, and we like the variety. I was listening to you. The varieties are amazing. Like I said, when I was growing up too, all I knew was Red Delicious and Granny Smith. And I didn't even know they were called Granny Smith. I just knew the red apple and the green apple.
Yeah.
Mhm. Halloween, I mean, as we get later in the fall, it's going to be like candy apple time and caramel apples. And I've even given out apples as a gift. Like, have you ever seen, like, I think it was Mrs. Printables or something, apples where there's chocolate covered apples with nuts on them? They're so good.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
also when I was growing up, back when I was in elementary, one of my elementary school teachers, that's when they used to cook in the classrooms with the kids. We did have a form of home ec. It was more so,
Really?
it was, I won't tell you my age, but yes, back they had a little burner like in the back.
Mhm.
And one of my favorite teachers, Miss Lawrence, she's transitioned at this point, but she was one of the most amazing teachers that there was. And she would let us cook, and we would candy apples, and then put the coconut flakes on the top. So we didn't have to go to the store. We got the little wooden sticks. We stuck them in the apple. She taught us how to make the candy coating, and how to dip it in to get it out, put it on, and just let them dry. And it was the most amazing, like, moments. Growing up, it was great.
Remember when you were telling us the other day, we met Vera at an event last weekend or 2 weekends ago, and she was telling us about um different ways, like she sees someone as like a nutritionist, and she taught you about what food you needed for your diet.
Right.
And I thought that that was so interesting. You said it was based on Caucasianality. What is it?
Kinesiology. It's
Kinesiology. Yes.
Yeah, the layman's term is called muscle testing.
Mm-hmm.
And I go to see Dr. Alicia Armistad.
Mm-hmm.
She's with Healing Arts. And I tell you, I'm actually on a video on her website, talking about the kinesiology, talking about the muscle testing, and how, it's your body's way of telling you what you need, as opposed to someone looking at a piece of paper and saying, okay, well, you're overweight, you're allergic to whatever because this test has showed you're allergic, or your blood levels are this or whatever, and I think you should eat like this or you should eat like that. So instead of someone telling me what they think, my body is literally telling her what it wants, it doesn't want at that moment, within time, within that visit. It's showing me the things that I need to stay away from. And there was a point at one time when I needed to stay away from uh like all kinds of sugars. Like, I got my fruit back, but at one point I had to stay away from fruit because it was high in sugar. But
Mm-hmm.
I had so many other sugars in my body that I had to just get my body to clean out. And once I got past that moment, I got all my fruits back. And apples, of course, was still on the top of the list because they're really they're really amazing. Like, you can just eat apples with lemons for breakfast and maybe have a piece of toast and run. And you will be amazed how full you will be for a good portion of the day.
Yeah, and satisfied, and especially like when you're talking about sugar, like the natural sugar in apples is really satiating, like in so many ways. Like, I remember I was dating a guy once, and he was staying with me for like the first weekend or whatever, and he was concerned because of my diet, like that he wasn't going to have anything that he was going to enjoy. And one of the things that we had purchased to make, I think I was making like some type of quick bread or something with some applesauce to replace eggs in it. And I was always get unsweetened just applesauce. And I remember when he tasted, he had braced himself thinking that it was going to not taste good. And I remember he puts it in his mouth and he goes, "Oh my God, this is sweet." And I'm just like, it's an apple. Like, it's naturally. I know that, the bottle says unsweetened. They didn't
Right.
add any extra sugar, but the apple itself is naturally sweetened. So it's interesting how we don't, like, we get so used to the stuff that they give us over the counter that we don't realize that, like, food in its natural form have these different, like, flavor profiles and tastes already built in. And apples, definitely, like you said, they're amazing. I love apples.
They are.
Randy loves to put apples in everything.
I have another recipe that I use apples with that my kids absolutely love. It's an apple cranberry kale salad.
Oh wow, that sounds good.
Yes.
Oh, it really is. I got it from a friend of mine's. Who she had a cooking program in my kids' elementary, my youngest two's elementary school. And I used to come help out all the time. I was always in the school. So, we would help. And, her idea was getting kids to eat vegetables and like them. And she used pears in hers. I switched my recipe around. Like after, she showed me the recipe, I said, okay, well, let's take this to the next level. Cause that's what I do. I see a recipe or I see somebody cooking and the next thing and I'm like, what can I do with this? That's me. That's, going to reflect how I cook and how I eat. So I changed it to apples because apples to me have a better flavor than pears. And the crispness in the salad with the kale and the craisins, and it is so good. One day I'm gonna make it for you guys, and y'all are gonna just flip. I'm telling you.
One day will be someday soon because I want some now. Don't promise me you're gonna give me something and then not give it. Okay.
Ironically, I just made it last weekend because I catered a repast. And I made it for the repast, and it was the first thing that was gone off the table.
Wow.
It was the first thing. The pan was just empty.
That's cool. And how do you dress it?
Actually, it's just well, you want me to give my secrets away?
Oh, no, don't make your secrets.
No, you're not giving away secrets.
I had never have a problem telling people what I put in my food. It is very simple. It's the actual dressing comes from the lemon juice, the olive oil, and I put a little bit of like either agave or honey and like a pinch of salt.
Yeah.
And really it's just that combination with the leaves, and I just let it marinate. Yeah. And then sometimes I'll put in a side jar because I marinate my craisins and apples in the lemon juice. And then I'll pour the lemon juice off and put it in a side jar with some olive oil and just use that to dress it when I get to where I'm going.
Yeah. Because lemon doesn't do well in salads,
Yeah. Well, you know what it is? Kale is a tough customer.
Yeah.
And we don't cook the kale. This is kale uncooked.
Yeah.
What I do is that I allow the olive oil and the lemon juice and the salt to break the kale down to make it so that it's not so tough. Like it's not, it becomes tender. But kale will stand up. Like this kale salad even dress will last in your refrigerator for days without becoming soggy or funky.
Yeah, kale's gangster. Like I agree. It packs. It takes a long time to break down. And if you happen to be somebody who doesn't or is trying to limit your oil, you can accomplish the same thing with avocado because it's the fat from the oil that breaks it down. So say for instance you're like, oh, I don't do oil, massaging that kale with the avocado, that lemon juice, and that'll help to break it down and get that same effect. Because I agree. That's why people don't like kale straight because it's so fibrous.
Yeah,
we don't.
I eat kale straight. When the first time kale crossed my door, I was like, "What is this thing? This is not mustard greens. This is what is this curly piece of something?"
The superfood of the century. It was everywhere when it first it was out of control. Kale chips, kale salad. Everybody eat kale. And like I was just like, I've always had kale. My grandma used to grow greens, and so she would always mix mustard, kale, and collards all together. So that was always my relationship with kale. It was always we never had it on its own. I like to mix to this bunch. And so it was just interesting when it got isolated out, and figure out like how do you make this work on its own, because it's not. I mean, I personally like collard greens better. I mean, everybody talks about like kale greens are like superior. I like collard greens.
Yeah, they're delicious.
Collard greens are the move. I still love my collard greens.
I know, we're so black, right?
Don't care what nobody say.
But that's how I used to feel about, like, I go to Costco and get the bags of salad, and they have a salad that's Chinese chicken salad, and it comes with cabbage in it.
Mhm.
And I used to feel the same way about the cabbage. But then I realized, like, if, like you said, it stands up in the refrigerator. If you let it sit there for an hour or so, the dressing, even the dressing that they give you, it's like an oil base with ginger or whatever. It helps to break down the daggone salad, because cabbage can be hard to break down too, especially when it's cold and not hot.
Oh, raw cabbage.
Yeah. Actually, there's a trick to raw cabbage too, but we talking about apples. So
I know, right? I'm thinking the same thing. I'm like, how can we fit apples? How do we put apples back in here? But I mean, apples, I think, make a good dress. Like I've made a dressing with carrot, apple, ginger that I put over top of cabbage, like raw cabbage salad, which is really yummy. So like apples, they work really well. Even with kale, like sometimes when I'm making random broths just to kind of play around with, like, how do I add some sweetness into this without actually using sugar? I've thrown like an apple into the pot while cooking kale just to kind of give it like another dimension to the broth, and it's pretty nice.
yeah. Well, apples are gangster. If you mix apples with just about anything, because they're so versatile between what you can cook them, whether or not you are eating them raw, there's just so much you can do with apples. I mean, I think my grandmother was the most gangster with apples, because she would take the apples we had left at the end of the season, and she would cut them up and stick them in a jar and make her apple liquor.
Oh, apple liquor.
We used to have apples.
Originally, that's what they had apples in this country for.
That's apple liquor. And let me tell you, in the bottom of the closet, you'd find jars, not one jar, jars lined up with apple liquor. And don't mess with her apple liquor. So I'm telling you, that was like the best stuff, because when we got sick, she would put some of that in some tea, lay us down, rub us down with something, I don't even know, something else homemade, and we would be up and running the next day. So I have no qualms with some homemade apple liquor. I haven't perfected it yet. My grandmother transitioned before I could get her recipe, but I'm still working on that.
Oh, girl, girl, I will take any iteration of that. So send some this way.
I did some virgin last year, because you really have to let it sit for at least 3 months.
Oh, okay.
3-month minimum it has to sit in order for it to really for it to start to pull it out and turn into liquor.
Okay.
But the longer you let it sit, the stronger it gets. But it takes a lot of apples to get one jar, really, to get one bottle. It does take a lot. So, when you get ready to do it, you got to be ready to do it.
Okay.
Cool. All right, guys. I think that's a great place to end the conversation on something like apple liquor. This episode with the potential of Vera's grandma's recipe. She drops it into her spirit and figures it all out. So we want to thank you for joining us for this episode of the Easy Answer podcast. And we're actually going to have Vera back again for another episode. She's a wealth of knowledge. So remember to check us out again when Vera's going to come back. But until the next time, Vera, let us know how we can get in touch with you again. Your social?
I have an Instagram. It's at Vera's Good, VERAYZGOOD. I am working on a website, but you definitely can get in touch with me. I'm on Facebook as well at Vera's Good. And, anytime you can get in touch with, I guess, Brandy and Bond and anybody who knows me, and just reach out. I'm there.
Sweet. Well, thanks so much, guys. As always, thanks for joining us for another episode of the Easy Answer podcast. Until the next time, remember to be easy.